y'all, but I have a fairly large amount of ADHD, and so I'm having to do repetitive tasks. And so, since I'm having to do repetitive tasks, I'm gonna stream, and that will maybe hold me more accountable to getting this done. So, anyways, what am I doing? I built an MCP that is being used. I guess at this point, it's more of an API that's being used by a innate inflow. And so this is the actual API mcp.frameworkmaps.org /API safeguards. And what this is intended to do is actually, and I'm fixing 3 right now, but let's look at like 2.1. What this is intended to do, and I'm making the assumption you can see this, but not very well probably. So I will make this a little bigger for now. But anyways, what I'm trying to do is make a API that is callable through an innate inflow to seed information, SEED, not CEDE, SEED, seed information into this LLM in the middle of an innate robotic process automation flow, or a flow, an agent that can take and process a vendor's description of their tool and what it does, and say whether or not that meets the safeguard that they believe they're trying to meet, right? So if a vendor says, hey, I'm an asset inventory, I store information about assets of mobile, whatever it may be, then that analysis bot will come back and go, yeah, that description's pretty good for this, or no, this kind of sucks. Like, you need to try again, brother. I make the assumption that I'm streaming and everybody can hear me just fine, or anybody that's watching can hear me just fine. Let's see if anybody's there. Just let me know. I'll see you in chat. But anyways, so the point is that I used AI to make this a while back, and certainly during times when there were a little more hallucinations. It took the drawings that I actually have on this screen here, I'll show you, that we made as a group, and tries to break all of that down into the components that are there, right? So the orange components are proof words, or things that I can validate as an assessor. The green is the core element of the safeguard. The white is the actual safeguard, enforced data retention, right? Then the description at the top. Well, what would often happen is the AI would just truncate the description at whim, or maybe not get the right, like instead of it being devices on everything, it said, or instead of software on everything, it made it applications, because it's like decided it would just do that. So I'm going back and fixing those errors. And then secondary, what I'm doing is fixing the prompts that I'm using to feed to the LLM along with that contextual relevant information to deal with that. Oh, thank you. What's up, DC YouTube? Good to see you. I know who that is, but I won't say it. Good to see you, friend. Okay, so anyways, I just decided I'd live stream so that I could hold myself accountable getting this done. So I have this document over here that I'm going to keep. Oh, that's cool. Wherever I move it on the screen is also relative to its position. That's neat. Okay, doesn't matter. I don't care. I'm going to minimize this back down so you can kind of see the code that I'm working on as well. So I'll put this back here in the corner. That's the safeguard I'm working on. And then the text up here, which I'll try to make just a little bit bigger for everybody. Yeah, should be pretty good. The text up here is what I'm editing, right? So I'll leave that there, and I'll bring VS Code back here, and then I'm pretty good. I can see myself. So, all right, cool. Yeah, very good. So 3.4 has enforced data retention, retain data according to the enterprise's data management process. I've already fixed 3.4. Retain and enforce and must include the 3 that are there. They do have data and protect. I've already fixed that. It's an IG1, so that's all accurate. So now I'm moving on to the 3 subtaxonomicals. Minimum and maximum timelines and data retention are the 3. Yeah, this is accurate. I'm not going to mess with those right now. So I'm just going to move on to 3.5. And this is this horribly repetitive task that I hate doing. Data protect, yes. Securely dispose of data is correct. Ensure is a proof word, so it shouldn't. Well, then hold on. Completely wrong here, actually. This actually should say disposal process and method are commensurate with the data sensitivity. With the data sensitivity. Because these are the governance elements, right? So this is what I would be measuring. Like, is it commensurate? Did they have a very sensitive data that now has a disposal process that's very sensitive? And if you're an MSP, this is oftentimes why you had to go like destroy DoD wipe or destroy a drive, was because the data that was considered on it was considered sensitive for the entity you were doing that for. Core requirements as outlined. Actually, this was the core requirements all messed up too, because the core requirement, and I was wondering why I was getting bad data out of this, but securely dispose of data. I couldn't just translate my drawings properly back then. I actually think now if I was to reapproach it, I'd probably save myself a lot of work by just saying, hey, take this and validate the data here and make sure you haven't taken whims of fancy. Subtaxonomical should be none because there are no subtaxonomical elements for this. So it would just literally be, I'll just leave it. And that's what I've done in the past on this is I would just delete everything but the actual wording that was there. Let me check back in for any comments. Yeah, so yeah, thanks, man. It's good to see you, buddy. I do need to get my work done, and that's why I'm doing this, is to hold myself accountable, although the irony is that these comments are taking me away from doing said work. But then bike ride for reward, motorcycle ride or otherwise. I've got a full day today. After this stream, I've got like 4 or 5 hours of meetings, but all prep for talks and stuff that I'm doing. So, all fun meetings, but anyways, okay, back to it. So securely disposed of data should be the subtax, because I'm just copying the taxonomical, the main taxonomical element when there are no subtaxonomical elements. And what I mean by that is, if you look at this chart, there are no yellow trapezoids down there, or I guess they're rhombuses, rhombi, would that be rhombi, whatever it is. There are no trapezoids down below. And so that means that we didn't determine there are any subtax. This is also one of those things where I think, other than as outlined in the, data documentation, data management process, is really just clarification, saying that this needs to match what you set in 3.1, right? So that's why that as outlined in, and probably is an actual miss on our part. Yeah, I think we argued this out, but thinking about it now, I'd probably tie it back to the process. But it does tie back. I mean, if you look, there's an arrow going back to 3.1, and that's a solid line arrow, which means there's not a dotted line or dashed line. I mean, it's not data, it's actually a parameterization. So we're now setting a parameterization in our process of saying, this is how we need to, so it's almost self-feeding in a way, right? Because it's saying, we need to dispose of data. Oh, shoot, I got to delete data. This is important. Maybe I need to modify my 3.1 as a result of that. Okay, anyway, start back to work. Securely disposed of data, those are fine. I'm not messing with that right now. So the other thing I'm going to be doing is coming back and changing this whole context, objective, and guidelines for each of these safeguards. But first, I got to get the data clean, and then I'm going to try to do that with LLMs after this. So I'm good there. Governance elements, yeah, cool stuff. Good. Okay, I'm good. Moving on. 3.6 is encrypt data on end user devices. Make sure they haven't truncated. They have not truncated. That is still correct. And I guess as an explanation, if anybody's watching, see these gray triangles are the gray. I guess that then would be a trapezoid. I don't know. I suck at shapes. We did the shapes and colors so that we work for colorblind as well. But ultimately, when they give an example that's not exhaustive, like there are third-party encryption systems sold by vendors that do this. So just saying using Windows BitLocker, Apple File Vault, and Linux DMCrypt is not exhaustive. It was just a list, right? And so when they do that, those are meant to be exemplary, but not exhaustive. And so we marked them as so. And we walked through this, right? They say example implementation. So it's not like they didn't say example. But anytime they've given examples, we pretty much make those gray so that you understand that their intention wasn't to say you have to use an MDM. They're saying this would help you, right? And they're not giving you every option that would help you. So anyways, I digress. Okay, so 3.6, yes, IG1 data protect, that is correct. It is encrypt governance elements. Yeah, that's what I'm checking for. Data on end user devices containing sensitive data. Data on end user devices containing sensitive data. That is the core requirement. But no, the core requirement is data on end user devices. Oh, well, I mean, technically fair, touche, but and this is where I'm at. Like, we've identified as that. Here's how I'm going to solve that. Because the actual correct, green we've made is data in user devices. And this is what's interesting is, like, theoretically, that's what the LLM just made the same logic jump that I was trying to make. Contains sensitive, that contain. What a goober. Okay. Windows BitLocker, those are examples. So those are implementation suggestions. That's accurate. All right, cool. All right, getting through it, just cleaning up the data, making sure it's right. And then we'll go through and right to what this group agreed upon. So what I'll remind everybody, if they're not familiar, this is a document that got created by a lot of human hour work, working together with these humans. We had Charity Otwell, myself and Veronica ran it, or owned the process and the outcome for the charity Impacts 8. But collaboration from CIS, Charity Otwell, not the charity, this charity, that's Charity Otwell, but Charity and Josh Franklin spent a lot of hours with us helping. Had two facilitators, Bob Miller and Stephen Kellogg, to keep us on work because I again reference my ADHD that then would cause challenges of that linear work formation without a help. And we had so many contributors, Alex Damas, Sandy Laren, Bob Miller, Brandon Martinez. I've started reading them now, so I have to. Brendan Patterson, Chris Johnson, Dan Brinkman, Danny Banks, Don Sizer, Eddie Phillips, Maria Scarmondo, Evan Grace, Heath Spencer, Henry Tim, Jack Skinner, Jordan Clark, Joshua Franklin, which already so named, Karen Stanford, Kenneth Brothers, Mark Menzies, Tommy Takai out of Australia, Zach Kromowski, Martin Perkins, Heather Noggle, Robert Ellis, Rui Lopez, Stephen Kellogg, Tony, also former mentioned. I think that's Teddy. Yeah, Teddy Gusak, Tim Golden, Tim Schur, Todd Seeger at the time. He worked for PAX8. Anyways, and then over 25 hours from each of these humans on the constant. So, I mean, if you think about the just number of human hours, we really argued through a lot of these points, got a lot of clarification from CIS. So anyways, I'm translating this. Back to translation, Matt. Stop it. Get back to work. Anyways, yeah, cool. So 3.7. So the other piece was we've dealt with those. The annually, let's look at my governance elements, just make sure those are right. Yeah. Establish, maintain, review and update annually. Yes, cool. Good. I agree. That's good. Data classification scheme. Yeah, that's the core element. That's the core element. See, that's where they've kind of just changed everything. It needs to be the exact wording, like data classification scheme. And it doesn't say for the enterprise, although for the enterprise is interpreted in this statement. But classify their data according to those labels. Yeah, but that's actually a subtaxonomical. Like that's a sub requirement. The first is have one, and then classify it. And then data classification scheme. So that's actually already stated in the primary taxonomical element, the primary what I need. And so this is where just like that kind of nuance is what the LLM just didn't do well at earlier this year in earlier models. Again, I probably think if I took another poke at it, it'd be fine. All right, so data classification schema and subtax doesn't include governance. Governance are separate. So then this is really just the two, because this is the core what? Like this is what we're trying to distill this for. And I need to remove this comma. I think I need to remove that comma. And I need to remove that comma. Yeah, got to keep my syntax correct. Let me check my syntax real quick. I wasn't paying attention earlier. Yep. 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 And yeah. Okay, cool. That's good. So I do it fine in 3.3. No. Or 3.5. I meant. Oh gosh. I hope I didn't mess up any of these. That's good. That's fine. I think on single lines, I need a non-comma when it's in part of a set like that, or whatever that's called. Yeah, non-comma, non-comma. Okay. Non-comma, non-comma, non-comma. That is a comma. It should be a comma. Okay, cool. All right. Goodness gracious. I hate doing this work. I really do. Oh, I really do. It needs to be done. I've been putting it off because I hate doing it so much. All right. 3.7. I think we wrapped up. Secure, sensitivity, confidence, or just implementation suggestions. Classified based on the labels. Yeah. All right. 3.8. IG2, identify data. IG2, identify data. Yep. Correct. Document data flows. That is the only requirement. The rest of it is part of a govern component and validation component. All right, and then did they truncate or when significant changes? No, they did not. So good. Document data. So that's all it needs to be. That all gets to go. That should be the three. Service provider, enterprise data flows, and the document data flows is interpreted in the core requirement. So that needs to be. I probably could just click on the line and delete, and I'm just being really bad at what I do. So if anybody knows, make fun of me. It's fine. I'm good with it. Document data flows, identify data, and then what was I going to fix? Yeah, here we go. Did they just make this all up? Yeah. Yes? Yeah. They just made up implementation suggestions. They're like, hey, you should have these things. They're already here, you sorry bastard. You can't just make them up. There's no intention of just making them up. Oh, God bless. Okay, hold on. I got to find how you do a null set of implementation suggestions. Did they just not? Where's one? I know there was one that had none. So it just ends with it just ends this way. Okay, so one line starts that and then it ends in a comma, bracket and comma. Okay, yeah, that's fine then. This is good. Cool. All right, null set. Don't just make them up. Thank you, Claude. Can't just make it up. Doesn't work that way. I mean, it does, clearly, but shouldn't. All right, cool. Nobody's chatting. Maybe nobody's watching. I don't know. It's boring. I know. I'm just literally keeping myself on track. I'll stop streaming here in a bit. But. All right, encrypt data on removable media. This is also one of those where it's like self-explanatory. Encrypt data on removable media, IG2 data. I got in some great conversation. Like somebody's like, this is BS. It should be an IG1. It should be an IG1. It's an IG2. Maintain data. Maintain was just added in. That's not right. Did we just, I guess we, why? That's a problem. Oh, well. It doesn't, it has to be a governance element. Why? That needs to be flagged for us to readdress as a group. I don't remember why we came to that conclusion. So that's it. Did they just put in, oh, they just made no core requirement? Oh, I see what happened. That's an error. That just needs to be encrypt. Gosh, let me make a note to deal with that. Hold on. 3.9. New email. Veronica. Please fix 3.9 visual. Maintain needs to be encrypt. All right, I'll get that fixed. All right, cool. A little break in the action there for a sec. That's fun. I don't know how. I've seen these things thousands of times and I missed it. But, you know, that's the human brain, I suppose, for you. 3.9. I'm just going to fix it in here because it does need to be fixed in here. So the core requirement needs to be, I think I would just put an enter in, yes. And then I would say core requirement. Thank you, love. This would be encrypt data. Okay. Yeah. I think I'm leaving it that way, structured. That'll be fine. All right, 310, that's correct anyway. 310, we had it correct. That's fine. Whatever. Encrypt data, sensitive data in transit. So this will be a very similar structure. IG2, data protect. Encrypt is the governance element. Sensitive data in transit. Sensitive data in transit. Let's make sure I'm mirroring the methodology. I think it's just data in removable media. And then the core requirement, subtext and local. Just to make it the same. Right? And how I do it? Encrypt data on removable media. Yeah, I think that's a way to handle it, at least linguistically. And then they had the two implementation suggestions, sensitive data in transit, 10 minutes taking an assessment. I gotta fix all that later, but that's not today. Not right now. It's later today, technically, or maybe tomorrow. 3.11, two more after this. 3.11, sensitive data at rest, encrypt sensitive data at rest. This one's going to be similarly structured, but there are subtags. So encrypt, this doesn't need to be here. It is a data protect. It is an IG2, but you need to go away. And then the core requirement would be encrypt. That's how we're kind of handling that. See, here it switched to the software instead of applications. Actually, I think I screwed that up, actually, likely. The way I filtered and fixed the applications. Databases, servers, storage layer, server. So these are additional encryption. So then, like, this all needs to come out. We need minimum requirement here. And all this is getting fed to an LLM. Each of these things are variables that get pulled by innate from the API call to then be pulled into the LLM. So they'll have all this context if they're evaluating a vendor against 3.11 or a vendor against 3.5 or a vendor against 3.4. So each time that runs, it'll have their description combined with all this context, combined with the instructions that we put in there based on the ones they mapped to. So if they map to full, then they'll get this prompt. If it's mapped to partial, they'll get this prompt. If it's mapped to facilitates, they'll get this prompt. And so then the LLM is just giving guidance back to the vendor of, no, this isn't covering the things that need to be covered on this to teach a practitioner about how to implement the safeguard with their tool, or like what their tool does. Requirement, minimum requirement, encrypt sensitive data, rest servers, applications, database storage level, minimum requirement goes away because that's not part of the subtax. That's part of the governance functions. Implementation suggestions is good. Am I good there? Did they truncate any of this? No. Okay. So pretty good. 3.11, 3.11, 3.12. Okay, 3.12. IG2 data protect. It's not data. This is network. Or is it wrong? There's no way. Yeah, no, segmentation is going to be that. Let me double check. And the controls over here on the controls manual. 3.12 says it is protect data. Our chart is wrong. I'm glad I double checked. 3.12 is still data, not network. So I need to fix that too. Goodness gracious, the thing's riddled with problems. I wouldn't even trust the guys or gals that made this. Golly. New email. Veronica. .12. 3.12. Fix. 3.12 shows protect network, but it should be protect data because we're in the data controls. Send. Okay, 3.12, back to work. 3.12, protect, and I'll fix this to data. That's correct. IG2, segment data processing and storage based on sensitivity of the data. That is the, yes. And that is not related. That's governance. Then this is not governance. This is going to be core requirement. So they just didn't put a core requirement in there. Interesting. That's governance. That's correct. The core requirement should be dang it. Yeah, man. And then there are no subtaxes. Yeah. Okay, fair. No implementation suggestions. Okay, cool. Yeah, because we made them all core requirements when we did this. All right, good. All right, for anybody that's like bored to sleep over there, thank y'all for joining in, I suppose. Yeah, this is the fun of this. I'm gonna get through all of 3.13. I'll get that thing ready to push and get it up to GitHub so it'll update the API to 3. Or I'm on 2.4.3 would be the version we're on once I'm done with 3. 3.12, because I'm just going through and fixing all 18, and I'll just update each version each time so that the system will work. I can do some testing while I'm doing it as well. 3.13, deploy a data loss DLP solution. Oh, there's one more? Oh, you suck. 3.14. Okay, fine. Deploy data loss prevention solution, protect data. That is correct. It's an IG3. we are doing a implement as a governance element. And then that would be it. Actually, that's the only. Core requirements would be an automated tool to identify sensitive data, identify all sensitive data. All this is going to be a subtax. Automated DLP tool is not technically the subtax. That's the element. Identify all sensitive data, stored, processed, transmitted, on-site data, remote service provider, update data inventory. Those are all correct. Move. Host-based data loss prevention tool is a suggestion and a tool, which is interesting. That is all of those. Okay, good. That one's good. Let's do 314. Thank you, class, for hanging out with me as I do mundane and boring work. It's great to see you. Log sensitive data access. Log is your governance element, sensitive data access, including access, modification, and disposal, which is accurate. Sensitive data access. Those don't need to be there. They're covered in the primary. Yup. Okay. 3 is done. Let's close and save. And let's go. All right, so I am going to let y'all go and stop streaming. What's up, Mike Jones? Oh, buddy, how are you? Man, good to see you. I haven't seen you in a minute. I hope everything is well in your world, friend. All right, I'm going to drop, but it was fun. A little quick 30 minutes of doing one control, so I need to do the other, the rest of the 15 that are left. And then once I'm done with that, I'll go back and rework the LLM prompts that I'm using, just because I've learned some things as I'm doing some live comparisons of things that the group has already approved. But if you're interested in being involved, go to frameworkmaps.org, join us on cyberrise.org, and join us on Patreon on Cyberrise, if you will. That is our nonprofit that is owning a lot of this and working with other entities like CIS and PAX8 to create a map of what tool helps with what safeguard. Something I've been working on for a while. So all that means is I take a long time and I'm a failure. But this is the kind of detailed work that has to go into getting this right, in my opinion, and make sure that the context that's being fed to the LLM is relevant context. And so that's a lot of what this project is. Anyways, see y'all later.